Consider for a moment the birth of Socrates around 470 BCE in Athens, Greece. This ancient Greek philosopher would go on to shape Western thought as we know it today. Yet, surprisingly, he left behind no written works of his own. Socrates lived during a period known for its philosophical inquiry and intellectual rigor, the ancient Greek era that followed the Mycenaean civilization's end, around 1200 BCE. During this time, the city-states of Greece grappled with fundamental questions about morality and virtue. Amidst these debates, Socrates stood out for his unyielding commitment to questioning popular views and interrogating everyday opinions. He lived from 469 BCE until his execution in Athens around 399 BCE, a life marked by his relentless pursuit of wisdom and truth. But what made Socrates so extraordinary? The Oracle at Delphi once declared him the wisest person alive. This proclamation, however, would lead to a paradox that would define much of Socrates' philosophical explorations. And so, we begin with the birth of Socrates, not just a philosopher, but a man who would challenge the very foundations of thought in ancient Greece. At the temple of Apollo in Delphi, a priestess was consulted for divine wisdom. This Oracle of Delphi was revered across ancient Greece. In the year 469 BCE, she made a proclamation that would forever change how wisdom was understood. The oracle declared that no one was wiser than Socrates. This paradoxical statement would come to challenge the very foundations of thought in ancient Greece. This approach proceeds by three core techniques: attacking flawed definitions, using reductio ad absurdum, and employing counterexamples. At the heart of these interactions lies a belief that questioning is the path to wisdom. Socrates would often start with a seemingly simple question, guiding his interlocutor through layers of logic. This method laid the groundwork for Western systems of logic and philosophy. It challenged conventional thinking by exposing hidden assumptions and forcing individuals to reevaluate their beliefs. By attacking flawed definitions, Socrates would push his interlocutors to defend their interpretations. This process often revealed gaps in their understanding. Reductio ad absurdum involved drawing out the logical consequences of a belief, showing how it leads to contradictions or implausible conclusions. Counterexamples provided concrete instances that challenged abstract principles, making philosophy tangible and real. This method proceeds in 7 stages: refuting the other person's beliefs, questioning their motives, posing counter-questions, forcing a logical defense, leading to the realization of ignorance, and finally, guiding towards true understanding. Through these steps, Socrates aimed not to prove his own knowledge, but to help others realize their lack of it. This approach underscored the value of questioning and self-awareness in ancient Greek thought. Understanding the foundation of Socrates' philosophical inquiries requires recognizing this method's revolutionary approach to learning and wisdom. His questioning laid the groundwork for Western systems of logic and philosophy, challenging conventional thinking by exposing hidden assumptions. This method's power lies in its ability to prompt self-reflection and growth, rather than merely imparting information. At the heart of this dilemma lies a fundamental question: what is piety? Socrates posed that piety might be defined as doing what the gods love. But Euthyphro extended this idea by asserting that piety also involves prosecuting one's own father for murder. This led Socrates to refine his inquiry, questioning whether piety simply aligns with what the gods love or if it encompasses actions like prosecuting a parent. The dialogue unfolded as Socrates probed deeper into this conundrum. The core of the dilemma hinges on whether piety is subject to personal opinions and actions, or if it exists independently as an objective moral truth. This exploration challenged the conventional wisdom of ancient Greek thought. Socrates' method of questioning, known today as the Socratic Method, involves attacking flawed definitions and using counterexamples to refine understanding. In this dialogue, he used these techniques to push Euthyphro's views to their logical extremes. By employing reductio ad absurdum and counterexamples, Socrates showed how complex moral concepts like piety cannot be easily defined. This exercise highlighted the intricate nature of morality and its deep-rooted relationship with divine approval. The dialogue concluded without a definitive resolution, leaving both Socrates and the reader to ponder the true essence of piety. This open-ended approach underscored the importance of continuous inquiry in philosophical discourse. Ultimately, the Euthyphro Dilemma introduced a central conundrum that shaped ancient Greek philosophical thought. It prompted deeper reflection on whether morality is subjective or objective, and how divine approval intersects with human actions. This dilemma laid the groundwork for future philosophical inquiries, emphasizing the importance of questioning definitions and exploring the nuances of moral concepts. The Euthyphro Dilemma, a classic thought experiment attributed to Socrates, explores the nature of piety and morality through a dialogue between Socrates and Euthyphro. In this conversation, Socrates challenges Euthyphro's definition of piety by asking whether it is the act itself that makes an action pious, or if there is something more. Socrates suggests that an action could be pious for one person and impious for another, depending on the context and their relationship with the gods. He argues that piety must be more than just performing the right rituals or following prescribed actions. Socrates believes that piety is a complex concept intertwined with virtue and knowledge of what the gods truly desire. This dialogue reflects Socrates' deeper inquiry into the nature of morality and how our actions align with divine expectations. By questioning Euthyphro, Socrates invites us to examine our own understanding of piety and the boundaries of moral action. In pondering this dilemma, we see the depth of Socrates' philosophical approach and his enduring influence on our understanding of morality. The nature and complexity of piety, as understood by Socrates, challenge us to continually question and refine our moral compass. The trial of Socrates is widely considered the founding myth of academic philosophy. His methods and questions continue to shape our understanding of morality and virtue in profound ways. Plato, who studied under Socrates and other philosophers, including followers of the mystic mathematician, produced works of unparalleled influence. By exploring these ideas, philosophers like Aristotle have built upon the foundational questions posed by Socrates. The legacy of Socrates' inquiry is not just historical, but actively shapes our philosophical landscape today. Ultimately, his ideas continue to inspire philosophers to delve deeper into the nature of piety and morality. After Socrates' death, his teachings didn't disappear. In fact, they were preserved and expanded upon by one of his most devoted followers, Plato. Plato's early dialogues, such as Euthyphro, Apology, and Crito, are believed to reflect Socrates' own views most closely. These writings provide a window into the teachings that Socrates shared with his contemporaries. But Plato didn't just preserve Socrates' teachings, he also founded one of the first institutions of higher learning in the Western world, the Academy in Athens, around 38-7 BCE. This school attracted some of the brightest minds of the time and became a hub for philosophical exploration and debate. Here, Plato's ideas on justice, beauty, and equality took shape in his influential writings like The Republic and Symposium. Through these dialogues, Plato introduced the theory of forms or ideas, the belief that there is an eternal, unchanging form of every object that we perceive with our senses. According to Plato, these ideal forms are perfect and timeless representations of the things we encounter in our imperfect world. For example, there is an ideal form of beauties that all beautiful things strive to emulate. While Plato's writings often focus on abstract concepts, he also addressed practical issues such as justice and governance. His works like The Republic offer insights into how societies should be structured to ensure fairness and harmony. Plato claimed that he was ignorant, aware of his own absence of knowledge, a stance that echoes Socrates' famous declaration, "I know that I know nothing." This humility in the face of deep questions is a trait that has inspired philosophers for centuries. Following Socrates' forced suicide, Plato spent 12 years traveling, further developing his ideas and gaining insights from different cultures. Upon his return to Athens, he continued his philosophical pursuits until his death around 3040–347 BCE. Plato's legacy lived on through the academy and the students who carried his teachings forward. Among these was Aristotle, who built upon Plato's ideas to develop his own theories on ethics, logic, and politics. Through this lineage of philosophers, from Socrates to Plato to Aristotle, the foundational questions about morality and virtue continued to be explored and refined, shaping the intellectual landscape of ancient Greece and beyond. Aristotle made significant contributions to logic, criticism, rhetoric, physics, and most notably, moral philosophy. His work on ethics is a cornerstone of Western thought. To grasp the significance of this dilemma, it's essential to place it within its broader context. Ancient Greece was a vibrant cradle of cultural achievements and unique practices. The society was characterized by its complex philosophical inquiries, where questions of virtue and morality were at the forefront of public discourse. Amidst this intellectual landscape, Socrates stood out for his unorthodox methods of interrogating popular opinions and beliefs. Rather than writing treatises, Socrates preferred the Socratic Method, a technique of questioning that sought to expose contradictions in arguments. The dialogue unfolds as Euthyphro attempts to define pious acts, only to have his definitions challenged by Socrates. This back and forth leads to a profound realization. What if the gods themselves disagree on what is pious? How can one define piety in such circumstances? This thought experiment doesn't provide a clear answer, but provokes deeper reflection on the nature of morality. By placing this dilemma in its historical context, we gain insight into how ancient Greek society wrestled with these profound questions. As we continue to explore the depths of ancient philosophy, this dialogue serves as a reminder that questioning our most deeply held beliefs can lead to profound insights. The accusations are severe. Socrates is accused of not believing in the gods recognized by the state and for corrupting the young men with his teachings. His accusers claim that Socrates has filled the city with godless heresies and turned the youth away from traditional values. Socrates' questionings have challenged the very foundations of Athenian morality and piety. Despite his efforts to clarify his beliefs, Socrates is found guilty. The sentence is swift and severe, death by hemlock poisoning. At the age of 70, Socrates will drink a cup of this lethal potion. His final moments are spent in conversation with his friends. Socrates' last words echo the wisdom he sought to impart. Through these texts, generations of philosophers continue to ponder the questions he raised about morality and virtue. Socrates' tragic fate underscores the enduring power of his ideas and their impact on Western thought. His final words to his friends are a poignant testament to the pursuit of wisdom. Credo, we owe a rooster to Asclepius. As we delve deeper into the philosophical landscape of ancient Greece, one figure stands out for his profound influence on Western thought, Socrates. In this dialogue with Euthyphro, Socrates asks a simple yet perplexing question. Is the pious loved by the gods because it is pious, or is it pious because it is loved by the gods? This question cuts to the heart of a long-standing debate about whether something is moral because it aligns with divine will, or if divine will acknowledges its inherent morality. The dilemma leaves us with no easy answers and invites us to consider the complex nature of morality. He believed that true wisdom comes from the realization of one's own ignorance, a humility that drives deeper inquiry. In his final hours, Socrates' conviction in the pursuit of wisdom is evident. In ancient Greece, the very notion of morality was deeply entwined with divine will and its earthly manifestations. This is where the divine command theory comes into play. This philosophical concept posits that morality is intrinsically tied to the commands of a divine being. In ancient Greek mythology, we see examples of this theory in action through the gods' decrees and the mortals' adherence to them. Take, for instance, the story of Prometheus, who defied Zeus by giving fire to humanity. This act was seen as a profound transgression against divine will. The ensuing punishment by Zeus highlights the grave consequences of disobeying a divine command. This philosophical dialogue between Socrates and Euthyphro delves into the core question: is something pious because the gods approve of it, or do the gods approve of it because it is inherently pious? This philosophical conundrum sheds light on the intricate relationship between morality and divine will in ancient Greek thought. Understanding the divine command theory is key to unraveling the moral frameworks underlying Socrates' dilemma. This perspective deepens our appreciation for the philosophical questions that Socrates posed and the profound implications they held. By exploring these ancient beliefs, we gain a clearer view into the moral frameworks that guided the thinkers of Greece. This understanding enriches our appreciation for the philosophical debates and the profound questions they sought to answer. In ancient Greece, the very nature of piety and morality was a topic of intense debate among philosophers like Socrates. This dilemma highlights how emotions like reverence and respect can influence our understanding of piety. In literature such as Homer's Iliad, characters like Hector display a deep sense of fear and respect towards the gods, which is often equated with piety. Socrates' exploration of this dilemma suggests that emotional intelligence plays a crucial role in moral deliberations. Through his dialogues, Socrates underscores the importance of examining one's own beliefs and emotions in the pursuit of true wisdom. The emotional dimensions of moral deliberation were not merely peripheral concerns for ancient Greeks. They formed the core of their philosophical inquiries. In the vibrant city-state of Athens, the polis was more than just a political structure. It was the very heartbeat of society, shaping every aspect of life. From its grand agora to its revered religious festivals, the polis defined not only how citizens governed, but also how they understood morality and virtue. Athenian lawmakers, deeply influenced by the collective wisdom of the citizenry, enacted statutes that sought to uphold the city's moral fabric. For instance, laws governing piety dictated how one should honor the gods and ancestors, ensuring harmony within the community. The polis's influence extended to religious practices. For example, annual festivals like the Anthesteria were not just celebrations but also opportunities for spiritual purification and communal bonding. These public rituals underscored the polis's central role in cultivating civic virtue among its citizens. They fostered a sense of collective identity and responsibility. Yet, Socrates challenged these traditional views on morality. He believed that personal virtue could not be dictated by political power alone. In his Euthyphro dialogue, Socrates grappled with the notion of piety. He questioned whether it was merely about pleasing the gods or adhering to societal norms. He argued that true piety lay not in mere obedience, but in a deep understanding of righteousness. This perspective clashed with the polis's emphasis on collective compliance. The polis, for all its wisdom, risked stifling individual moral growth. It fostered conformity at the expense of personal introspection. Through his relentless questioning, Socrates sought to awaken citizens to the complexities of morality beyond simple adherence to rules. The dialogue concluded that piety is not mere obedience, but an understanding of what is truly just and virtuous, a lesson that resonates even today. Thus, the polis shaped Athenian morality, yet it was also challenged by philosophers like Socrates, who sought to deepen and broaden its scope. In Plato's dialogue Meno, Socrates debates with Meno about the nature of virtue. Meno believes that virtue can be taught. Socrates, however, questions whether something as complex as virtue can indeed be taught, just like any other skill. In Theaetetus, another dialogue by Plato, Socrates explores the idea of knowledge and whether it can be defined as true belief with a rational account. Each dialogue approaches these moral questions from a different angle, offering varied perspectives on what piety and morality truly are. The evolution of Socratic thought on these subjects underscores his enduring quest to define and understand fundamental moral concepts. By examining these dialogues together, we gain a broader perspective on how Socrates and Plato grappled with the complexities of morality and virtue. This comparative analysis reveals the richness and complexity of ancient Greek philosophical thought and its enduring relevance today. Amidst the bustling agora, a figure known for his profound inquiries into the nature of virtue and wisdom walked. This was Socrates, a philosopher whose dialogues have shaped our understanding of morality and piety to this day. Euthyphro suggests that piety is doing what the gods love, essentially worshiping them properly. Socrates then challenges this definition by asking if the gods love all pious actions. He argues that if the gods love all pious actions, then it must be because these actions are inherently pious. This sets up a paradox. If something is pious because the gods love it, and the gods love it because it is inherently pious, we are left with a circular definition. Through this dialogic method, Socrates reveals the interconnected nature of virtues. He illustrates that piety is not an isolated virtue, but one that exists in relation to other virtues like wisdom and justice. In doing so, Socrates' inquiry shapes our perception of virtue as a multifaceted concept interwoven with other ethical principles. Through his method of questioning, Socrates challenged conventional wisdom by insisting that ethical decisions should be based on rational thought rather than emotional impulses. This question highlights Socrates' belief that reason should guide moral thinking. He argues that piety, or virtue, is not dependent on divine favor, but rather on the inherent goodness of the action itself. Socrates' emphasis on logos laid the foundation for a rational approach to morality that would influence Western thought for centuries. While Socrates acknowledged the role of emotions in human life, he maintained that they should not cloud one's judgment when making ethical decisions. To illustrate his point, Socrates might have asked, "How can we trust our emotional responses if they often lead us astray? Only through reason can we achieve true understanding." Thus, Socrates' insistence on the primacy of reason in moral decision-making shaped our perception of virtue as a carefully considered and rationally grounded concept. For Socrates and many ancient Greek philosophers, this dilemma challenged prevailing views on divine authority and morality. It forced them to question whether morality is an absolute standard determined by the gods or a relative concept shaped by human understanding. In Euthyphro's view, piety is closely tied to divine approval. He believes that what the gods love is pious by definition. This perspective aligns with the idea of absolute morality, the notion that there are universal and unchanging moral standards set by divine authority. Socrates, however, poses a critical question. If the gods disagree among themselves about what is just or pious, how can morality be absolute? His argument introduces the concept of moral relativism, the idea that moral values are relative to different individuals, cultures, or situations. This dilemma reveals a deeper tension in ancient Greek philosophy, the balance between reason and divine authority. Socrates' emphasis on rational thought challenges the idea that morality is solely dictated by the gods. By asking these questions, Socrates pushes Euthyphro and the audience to consider whether morality is determined by some external force or discovered through human reason. This tension between absolute moral standards and relativism has echoed throughout philosophical discourse ever since. As we delve deeper into Socrates' insights, we gain a clearer understanding of how ancient Greeks navigated the complex interplay between divine guidance and human reason in shaping their moral views. In ancient Greece, piety was not simply about performing rituals. It encompassed a deep reverence for the gods and their divine laws. The Greeks believed that the gods upheld cosmic order, or dika, which governed both natural phenomena and human behavior. This divine law was seen as inviolable and eternal, reflecting the perfect nature of the gods themselves. Socrates sought to understand how this divine will should guide human behavior, leading him to pose his famous dilemma. If something is pious because it is loved by the gods, then what the gods love must be universally pious. However, if different gods have different loves and commands, this leads to a paradox where the same action could be both pious and impious, depending on which god it pleases. This subtle distinction highlights a deeper philosophical question. Is there an independent standard of goodness or justice that the gods recognize, or do their commands create what is good and just? This query reflects the ancient Greeks' quest for understanding the fundamental principles governing the universe. In exploring this dilemma, Socrates reveals a tension between divine will and human reason. The Greeks saw the gods as omniscient and wise, but also capable of irrational acts, like the jealousy and rivalry depicted in their myths. This complexity suggests that, while divine commands are to be respected, they may not always align with human conceptions of justice and morality. Socrates' dialogue thus offers a nuanced view of how piety was understood and practiced in ancient Greece, balancing reverence for the gods with critical examination of their dictates. Ultimately, Socrates' insights invite us to consider whether piety is about blind obedience or a deeper understanding of divine wisdom and human responsibility within the cosmic order. As we reflect on these ancient questions, we gain a richer appreciation for the philosophical journey that continues to shape our moral landscape today. Socrates' dialogues, including the Euthyphro, illuminate these explorations by examining the essence of piety through the lens of Arete, the Greek concept of excellence or virtue. In the dialogue, Laches, Socrates probes the relationship between Arete and courage, questioning whether being brave in battle is the ultimate form of excellence. He suggests that true virtue lies not just in facing physical danger, but also in understanding one's own strengths and limitations, a form of self-knowledge that transcends mere bravery. Similarly, in the Charmides dialogue, Socrates examines temperance as another facet of Arete, pushing beyond conventional wisdom to explore the deeper layers of self-control and moderation. This interplay between various forms of Arete and their moral implications is crucial to Socrates' philosophy. Socrates believed that understanding oneself was the key to living a virtuous life, and this self-awareness extends to one's piety. This dialogue highlights Socrates' view that virtue and piety are interconnected, piety itself being a form of arete and cannot be separated from the moral landscape. This exploration deepens our understanding of Socrates' foundational concepts that underpin his moral inquiries, showing how his insights continue to shape our philosophical journey today. As Socrates delved deeper into the nature of piety, he began to consider how the attributes of Greek deities might influence moral philosophy. His explorations often took the form of dialogues, such as those recorded by Plato, where he challenged conventional wisdom and probed the limits of our understanding. To understand this, it's essential to examine the divine nature as depicted in ancient Greek texts like Hesiod's Theogony. In Hesiod's Theogony, the Greek deities are portrayed as beings with complex and sometimes conflicting attributes. They exhibit a range of emotions, including love, jealousy, and anger. This portrayal raises questions about the nature of divine command theory, the idea that something is moral because a god commands it. If gods are depicted as being capricious and their actions sometimes unjust, how can their commands be considered the ultimate standard of morality? Socrates, in his dialogues, often hinted at this tension between divine authority and human moral intuition. His exploration suggests that there might be a deeper moral truth that exists independently of the whims of the gods. This idea challenges the straightforward notion that piety is simply about obeying divine commands. Instead, Socrates implies that there might be an inherent quality in actions that makes them pious, regardless of whether the gods love or command them. By questioning the conventional wisdom about piety, Socrates opens up new avenues for philosophical inquiry that continue to resonate today. As we delve further into his dialogues, we find ourselves drawn into a timeless exploration of what it means to live a virtuous life. In the end, Socrates' insights challenge us to look beyond mere obedience and seek the inherent goodness that lies at the heart of true piety. The ancient Greeks, known for their philosophical inquiries, held piety in high regard. But what did that mean for everyday life in Athens? Consider the case of Euthyphro, a man who prosecuted his own father for murder. According to Athenian law, filial piety required children to honor their parents. Yet, wasn't it also one's civic responsibility to ensure justice was served? In another instance, during the Peloponnesian War, the Athenians decided to honor their pact with Sparta by not accepting peace terms from Persia. Despite the immediate benefits of ending the war, they chose to uphold their treaty as a matter of piety. But what happens when these duties clash? Take the example of the Mytilene debate. After a revolt by Mytilene against Athens, a harsh punishment was initially voted upon, only to be reversed in favor of mercy. The Athenians grappled with these philosophical questions, often struggling to balance personal and civic duties. Socrates' teachings challenged them to look beyond mere compliance. In the end, it's about understanding that piety is not just about following rules, but embodying virtues that serve both one's family and the broader community. And so, the story of Athens is not just one of political power, but also of philosophical reflection, where questions of piety and civic responsibility were constantly explored. One of the most intriguing dialogues that showcases this method is the Euthyphro. In this conversation, Socrates engages with Euthyphro, a man who claims to have knowledge of piety and impiety. Socrates begins by asking Euthyphro to define piety. Euthyphro responds that it is what he is doing now, prosecuting his father for murder. Socrates, however, finds this definition inadequate and proceeds to challenge it. This technique is not unique to the Euthyphros. In other dialogues like Meno, Socrates employs the same strategy to explore the nature of virtue. Here, Meno asserts that he knows what virtue is, but his attempts to define it lead to contradictions and confusion. Similarly, in the Republic, Socrates engages with Glaucon about justice. The conversation delves into the essence of a just society and individual justice, highlighting how our understanding of moral concepts can be deeply flawed without clear definitions. Through these dialogues, Socrates systematically demonstrates that our preconceived notions of morality and piety often lack a solid foundation. His method of questioning reveals the gaps in our understanding and compels us to reconsider our assumptions. This systematic approach is not just about creating confusion, but about guiding the interlocutor towards a more refined understanding. It is a process that aims to uncover the true nature of moral concepts and their significance in our lives. In doing so, Socrates highlights the importance of clear and precise definitions in philosophical inquiry. Without a solid grasp of these fundamental concepts, our moral reasoning can be flawed and misguided. By challenging our assumptions and seeking out the essence of moral concepts, Socrates laid the groundwork for a deeper exploration of virtue and civic responsibility. His philosophical reflection continues to echo through the ages, guiding us in our quest for true wisdom. Perhaps it is this spirit of inquiry that makes the dialogues of Plato, such as Meno and Euthyphro, so compelling. They remind us that true understanding comes not from certainty, but from a willingness to question what we take for granted. For Aristotle, eudaimonia is not something that happens by chance or as a result of good fortune. Instead, it is something that one actively seeks and achieves through the practice of virtue. Socrates' teachings emphasize the importance of questioning and examining one's beliefs. This approach to understanding morality and piety laid the groundwork for Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia. In the dialogue, Meno, Socrates engages with a slave boy to demonstrate that true knowledge comes from questioning and examining one's beliefs. This idea resonated deeply with Aristotle and influenced his view that virtue and happiness are intertwined. According to Aristotle, eudaimonia is not just about being happy in the moment. It involves a lifelong commitment to living virtuously. To illustrate this idea, consider an analogy. Imagine a gardener tending to a beautiful garden. The act of gardening itself is part of what brings joy and fulfillment to the gardener. It's not just about enjoying the final result. In a similar way, Aristotle believed that the pursuit and practice of virtue are integral parts of leading a happy and flourishing life. The garden, in this case, represents the state of eudaimonia, a place where one can find true happiness and well-being. Socrates' thought experiments encouraged people to question their assumptions about morality. Aristotle built upon these ideas by proposing that a life of virtue is not only moral, but also leads to genuine happiness. By questioning and examining their beliefs, individuals can cultivate a deeper understanding of what it means to live virtuously. This active pursuit of virtue is at the core of Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia, happiness that comes from living in accordance with one's virtues. In ancient Greece, the concept of arete, excellence or virtue, was deeply intertwined with one's sense of morality and piety. It represented a state of being that embodied the highest ideals of human character. Arete was not merely about personal achievement. It encapsulated the essence of what it meant to be virtuous and live in harmony with divine principles. This line of questioning pushed Euthyphro and the reader to consider whether divine approval makes an action pious, or if something intrinsically good about the action makes it worthy of divine favor. Socrates' method of questioning did not provide definitive answers, but instead encouraged deeper inquiry and reflection on the nature of virtue. This approach challenged the static views of morality prevalent in ancient Greek society. By exploring the nuances of piety, Socrates invited his interlocutors and readers to reassess their understanding of arete. This process deepened the philosophical discourse on moral excellence and piety in ancient Greece. The legacy of Socrates' thought continues to influence our understanding of morality and virtue today, demonstrating how questioning and inquiry can push the boundaries of what constitutes moral excellence. This active pursuit of understanding the essence of arete is at the core of the philosophical tradition that Socrates helped shape, leading to deeper insights into the nature of morality and piety. This seemingly simple query holds a deeper implication. If piety stems from divine approval, then what we consider moral could be arbitrary and changeable depending on the whims of the gods. However, if piety is an inherent quality independent of divine sanction, it suggests a universal standard that exists outside of divine intervention. Socrates' method of questioning, the Socratic Method, is designed to elicit these kinds of deeper insights. Through careful inquiry, he aims to unveil the foundational principles that underlie our moral judgments. This process is not merely academic, it has profound practical applications. It's known as Phronesis, a Greek term for practical wisdom or ethical decision-making. Phronesis involves the ability to make sound moral judgments and decisions in daily life. It's about knowing what is right, not just in abstract terms, but in concrete situations where actions have real consequences. For Socrates, the pursuit of Phronesis was a lifelong quest. His dialogues were not just intellectual exercises. They were his way of exploring the essence of virtue and applying it to real-world dilemmas. His inquiries often revolved around ordinary people facing moral quandaries. By probing these situations, Socrates aimed to reveal the underlying principles that guide our ethical choices. In the end, Socrates' approach emphasizes a deeply human aspect of philosophy, its relevance to our daily lives and decisions. His methods invite us to question not just for the sake of knowledge, but for the sake of living better lives. And in this way, the legacy of Socrates endures. His quest for understanding the nature of piety and morality continues to shape our modern quests for practical wisdom and ethical reasoning. Perhaps the most profound insight from Socrates is that questioning and seeking are not just intellectual pursuits, but acts of living well. As we navigate our own moral landscapes, his spirit reminds us to question deeply and strive for true understanding. For in the end, it is not just about knowing what is right, but about doing what is right, a lesson that echoes through the ages from Socrates to us all. One such question revolved around the concept of Nemesis, the idea of divine retribution for wrongdoing. In ancient Greek religion, Nemesis was a powerful force that ensured justice in the world. The Greeks believed that if one acted unjustly or impiously, Nemesis would eventually catch up and deliver a fitting punishment. This belief was deeply ingrained in Greek culture, shaping their moral framework and influencing how they understood virtue and piety. Socrates, known for his relentless questioning, began to challenge this traditional view of Nemesis. In his early dialogues, as recorded by Plato, Socrates engaged in thought experiments that probed the nature of morality and divine punishment. Euthyphro believed that piety was simply about pleasing the gods, which he thought he knew how to do perfectly. Socrates, however, asked Euthyphro if what is pious is also loved by all the gods, and whether what all the gods love is the same as what is pious. Through this questioning, Socrates revealed that there might be more to piety than just pleasing the gods, a radical idea in its time. Socrates' questioning did not stop at theological debates. He also explored the role of Nemesis in human affairs. He asked if there is a divine art or skill that makes all things good, suggesting that perhaps Nemesis itself could be subject to higher principles of justice and wisdom. This questioning challenged the idea that Nemesis was an unerring force of divine retribution, instead suggesting it might be part of a broader moral framework. For Socrates, understanding morality and virtue required deeper inquiry than simply accepting traditional beliefs about divine punishment. By questioning the concept of Nemesis, Socrates forced his contemporaries to re-examine their own moral foundations. This interplay between religious belief, morality, and philosophical inquiry shaped ancient Greek notions of piety in profound ways. Though Socrates did not provide definitive answers, his questioning laid the groundwork for a more complex understanding of morality and divine retribution. In ancient Greek mythology, Prometheus, the Titan god of fire, challenges Zeus and steals divine knowledge to give to humans. For his audacity, Prometheus is chained to a rock as eternal punishment by Zeus. This myth underscores the tension between divine authority and human ambition, a theme that would later echo in Socrates' exploration of morality. Another tale involves Zeus and his son Icarus, a story of disobedience and hubris. Icarus ignores his father's warning not to fly too close to the sun, causing his wings to melt. This myth serves as a cautionary tale about respecting boundaries set by authority figures, a lesson that resonates with Socrates' philosophical inquiries. Greek mythology is rich with such moral lessons that shape the cultural context of ancient Greece. These stories provide a framework for understanding virtue and piety concepts that Socrates would probe deeply. His inquiries into morality take on a new dimension against the backdrop of these ancient stories. In this cultural context, Socrates' exploration of divine retribution and human virtue gains deeper resonance. Anaximander, a pre-Socratic philosopher, believed that the underlying principle governing the universe was an infinite, eternal substance he called apeiron. This apeiron maintained balance and order in the cosmos. Heraclitus, another pre-Socratic thinker, proposed that change was the fundamental nature of reality. He argued that everything in the universe is in constant flux and motion, which he famously summarized with the saying, "You cannot step into the same river twice." Both Anaximander and Heraclitus believed that this underlying principle or change was divine in nature. They saw it as an ever-present force guiding the universe and maintaining its harmony. Pythagoras, known for his mathematical insights, also held views on virtue and divine nature. He taught that the soul is immortal and can migrate between bodies. According to Pythagorean philosophy, acting virtuously helps the soul progress towards a state of purity and eventual reunion with the divine. In this dilemma, Socrates questions whether piety is simply doing what the gods love, or if it involves a deeper understanding of justice and moral action. Socrates' inquiry reveals a complex interplay between divine commandments and human ethics, reflecting the rich philosophical tradition he inherited. His dialogues with Euthyphro and others continue to shape our understanding of morality and piety in ancient Greece, building upon the insights of his predecessors. Central to this dialogue is the question, is something pious because it is loved by the gods, or do the gods love it because it is pious? This conundrum has puzzled philosophers ever since. Modern philosophers have engaged with this dilemma in various ways, seeking to resolve or expand upon its implications. He argued that the concept of piety cannot be defined in terms of divine approval, but rather emerges from a form of life or practice. Elizabeth Anscombe, another influential philosopher, tackled the dilemma by proposing a divine command theory of ethics. She suggested that moral obligations arise from God's commands, though this view has been subject to extensive critique. Bernard Williams offered a nuanced interpretation, focusing on the idea of piety as a form of devotion rather than obedience. He maintained that piety is more about a personal relationship with the divine than mere compliance with divine commands. The dilemma's enduring relevance lies in its ability to challenge our assumptions about moral authority and the basis of ethical behavior. As we reflect on these dialogues, we are reminded that questions of piety and morality are timeless and profoundly human. Ultimately, these dialogues prompt us to consider the foundations of our beliefs and the complexities of moral life. Enter Aristotle, who sought to navigate this complex terrain of morality and virtue. His concept of the golden mean offers a framework for understanding piety within a broader ethical landscape. According to Aristotle, virtues lie at the mean between two extremes, vices of excess and deficiency. For example, bravery is the mean between cowardice and recklessness. Applying this to piety, we find that true piety is neither excessive nor deficient in its reverence for the divine. This balanced approach aligns with Socrates' inquiry. True piety is not merely doing what the gods love, it is understanding the essence of divine reverence. Thus, Socrates' insights laid the groundwork for Aristotle's exploration of virtues and vices. This interplay between Socratic inquiry and Aristotelian virtue ethics continues to shape our understanding of morality and piety. In the end, both philosophers remind us that true virtue is not a matter of extremes, but of balance and wisdom. Consider the iconic pottery of ancient Greece. Vases and urns often depicted scenes from mythology that explored moral dilemmas. For example, the famous red figure Kylix depicting Ajax and Odysseus in dispute over Achilles' armor. Similarly, sculptures like the Parthenon frieze illustrate stories that challenge traditional notions of morality. These artistic representations suggest a cultural grappling with the same philosophical questions raised by Socrates. Poetry, too, reflected this philosophical inquiry. Hesiod's Works and Days, for instance, delves into the consequences of moral actions. Theater in ancient Greece also addressed these themes. Aeschylus's Oresteia trilogy grapples with the moral complexities of revenge and justice. Through these plays, the Greeks explored the nuances of morality and piety, demonstrating a cultural fascination with the same questions posed by Socrates. In ancient Greek myths, gods and heroes often grappled with dilemmas that echoed the philosophical inquiries of their time. Consider the tale of Antigone. Her brother Polynices rebels against Thebes and is killed in battle. Creon, king of Thebes, decrees that Polynices shall not receive a proper burial as punishment for his treachery. Antigone, despite knowing the penalty, defies Creon and gives her brother the rites of passage he deserves. This act of piety, honoring a family member above the law, leads to Antigone's own execution. In Sophocles' tragedy, Antigone, piety is not simply obedience to the gods, but also devotion to family and personal conscience. The myth serves as a moral lesson, illustrating that true piety requires balancing divine law with personal integrity. Another example is the story of Iphigenia at Aulis. Her father Agamemnon sacrifices her to ensure favorable winds for his army's journey. Here, piety involves the complex duty of a child towards their parent, even in such dire circumstances. These myths, passed down through generations, guided ancient Greeks in navigating moral dilemmas and reflecting on the nature of piety. This paradox forced ancient Greeks to reconsider their assumptions about divinity and morality. The Stoics, a philosophical school founded by Zeno of Citium in the early 3rd century BCE, grappled with these same questions. Zeno believed in a universal reason or logos that governs all things, including morality. For Zeno, piety was not about pleasing the gods, but living in accordance with nature and reason. Cleanthes, the second head of the Stoic school, expanded on this idea. He argued that virtue is its own reward. Seneca, a prominent Roman Stoic philosopher, echoed these sentiments. He believed in the concept of natural laws that guide human behavior. These natural laws, according to Seneca, are immutable and eternal, much like Socrates' understanding of piety as a fundamental truth. Instead of focusing on divine approval, they emphasized living according to reason and nature. This shift in perspective reflects the enduring impact of Socrates' thought experiment on later philosophical schools. It reminds us that morality and piety are not static concepts, but continually evolving as we question, explore, and redefine them. As the ancient Greek philosophers grappled with these questions, the seeds of religious ethics began to take root in early Christian thought. Augustine argued that actions are considered good because they align with God's will. For him, piety was not about blind obedience, but understanding the divine intentions behind each command. Aquinas further developed this idea by proposing that moral principles are rooted in natural law, which is a reflection of divine wisdom. By doing so, they laid the groundwork for religious ethics within Christianity that continues to influence moral thought today. As we delve deeper into these questions, it becomes clear that morality is not a fixed concept, but rather an evolving dialogue between human intuition and divine guidance. This question probed the foundation of Greek legal principles, which were deeply intertwined with religious beliefs. Ancient Greek lawmakers often invoked divine authority to legitimize their decrees. However, Socrates' dilemma highlighted the circular reasoning in this approach. If actions are deemed pious because they are sanctioned by gods, then those same gods must already recognize the actions as pious. This logic could undermine the basis of law, as it suggests that divine approval is merely a consequence of human actions, not their cause. The dilemma may have prompted legal thinkers to reconsider the role of divine authority in shaping laws. Some might argue that laws should reflect inherent moral principles rather than divine mandates alone. This philosophical inquiry could have practical implications for the judiciary, influencing how judges interpreted and applied laws based on their moral underpinnings. While concrete evidence of direct influence is scarce, the dilemma provides a lens through which to examine the evolution of Greek legal thought. Understanding the interplay between divine sanction and human action can deepen our appreciation for the complexity of ancient Greek jurisprudence. Take the play Antigone by Sophocles. Here, Antigone defies Creon's edict to bury her brother Polynices, who had fought against Thebes. Her action sets in motion a series of events that challenge notions of loyalty, familial duty, and divine law. Antigone's act of burying her brother is seen as pious by some, but treasonous by others. The clash between personal conscience and civic duty is starkly illuminated in this tragedy. The parallels between Socrates' exploration of morality and the dramas of Sophocles underscore a broader cultural exploration in Athenian society. Socrates' questions weren't confined to philosophical discourse, but resonated through the arts and theater of his time. These dramatic representations serve as a testament to the enduring relevance of Socrates' inquiries into the nature of morality and piety. As we delve deeper into ancient Greek thought, the themes explored by Socrates reveal themselves not just in philosophy, but in every corner of their vibrant cultural landscape. Heraclitus of Ephesus, for instance, believed in a universal logos or principle that governs all change and movement. He argued that everything is in a state of flux, and the only constant is this underlying logos. Parmenides, on the other hand, saw reality as immutable and unchanging, dismissing change as an illusion. According to him, true knowledge can only be gained through pure thought and logic, not through sensory experience. Protagoras, meanwhile, took a more relativistic approach, asserting that truth is relative to the individual and their perception. This diversity of views set the stage for Socrates' exploration of these themes in his dialogues. By questioning whether actions are pious because they are loved by the gods, or if the gods love them precisely because they are pious, Socrates invites us to consider a deeper moral logic. This deeper logic intertwines with other Socratic virtues, wisdom, courage, and temperance. Wisdom, in Socrates' view, is not just about knowing facts, but understanding the true nature of things. He believed that true virtue requires insight into what makes something genuinely good or right. Courage, for Socrates, is not merely the absence of fear, but the knowledge of what should and shouldn't be feared. Temperance is not just about self-control, but understanding the proper measure of things. Piety, in this framework, is not just about pleasing the gods, but doing what is inherently good and right. These virtues form a web where each strengthens the others. Piety is not isolated, but integral to a broader moral framework. This interconnectedness deepens our understanding of morality and piety in ancient Greece, showing that Socrates' dilemma was not just about divine approval, but a quest for true virtue. For Stoics, true piety meant understanding and accepting one's place within the cosmic order. They believed that divine favor was not a prerequisite for being virtuous. Epicureanism, developed by Epicurus in the late 4th century BCE, posited that pleasure is the highest good and pain the greatest evil. For Epicureans, piety was seen as a means to achieve tranquility, not divine approval. Epicurus taught that gods exist, but are indifferent to human affairs. Hence, piety involves respecting the gods, but not seeking their favor for personal gain. Skepticism, championed by philosophers like Pyrrho in the 4th century BCE, argued that knowledge is unattainable and suspended judgment on all claims. To skeptics, piety was a questionable concept, since the very notion of divine approval or disapproval cannot be verified. In ancient Greece, the Sophists were a group of itinerant philosophers known for their teachings on morality and rhetoric. They believed that truth was relative and could be manipulated through language. Socrates, in his dialogue with Euthyphro, challenged this relativist view by questioning what exactly piety meant. The sophists, such as Protagoras and Gorgias, saw morality as a subjective concept, shaped by individual perception and cultural norms. Protagoras famously stated that man is the measure of all things, meaning that each individual's perception defines reality for them. Socrates countered this by asking Euthyphro to define piety, aiming to expose the inconsistencies in Protagoras' relativism. Gorgias, another sophist, believed that rhetoric was a powerful tool that could be used to persuade others regardless of the truth. He thought persuasion was more important than knowledge itself. However, Socrates argued that true piety is not something that can be manipulated or persuaded into existence. He believed there was an objective standard for morality, which the sophists denied. Socrates' arguments had a lasting impact on the sophists and their views on morality. They forced them to reconsider whether morality could indeed be reduced to individual perceptions or cultural norms. One such interpretation was offered by Antisthenes, who argued that piety is not about adhering to cultural norms or rituals, but rather about acting justly and virtuously. He believed that true piety comes from within, guided by an inner moral compass. Diogenes of Sinope, known for his radical views and rejection of conventional morality, took this idea further. He believed that natural law is the true source of virtue, and that human-made laws often stray from this natural path. These early Cynics argued that true virtue comes from living in accordance with nature and the divine order of the cosmos. Their interpretations drew a direct line from Socrates' questioning of traditional piety to their own radical ideas about the source of moral action. This inquiry, presented through a dialogue between Socrates and Euthyphro, questioned the very foundation of rhetoric, the art of persuasion. It raised doubts about whether one could simply assert something was right because the gods approved of it. The impact of Socrates' questioning method was significant. It reshaped the way ancient Greeks approached rhetoric and communication. Teachers like Isocrates, who taught oratory and philosophy in Athens during the 4th century BCE, began to emphasize critical thinking and logical argument over mere assertion. Aristotle, another influential figure in ancient Greece, further developed this approach. He believed that rhetoric should be grounded in logic and reasoning, rather than simply relying on divine authority or popular opinion. This shift towards reason-based argumentation was revolutionary. It meant that orators and philosophers alike had to back up their claims with evidence and logic, not just divine endorsement. For instance, in his work, Rhetoric, Aristotle emphasizes the importance of ethos, credibility, and character in persuasion. This emphasis on ethical appeal echoes Socrates' insistence that one must examine their beliefs and actions critically. The use of Socratic techniques in oratory can be seen in the speeches of prominent figures such as Isocrates, who used dialectical questioning to challenge traditional views and encourage critical thought. Socrates' questioning method reshaped the way ancient Greeks communicated their moral beliefs, making persuasion a matter of logic and reason rather than mere divine approval or popular sentiment. Before Socrates, thinkers like Thales and Anaximander considered piety as a sense of wonder at the natural world. They saw it as an awe-inspired response to the mysteries of nature, a sense of reverence for the divine presence in all things. Pythagoras took this idea further, suggesting that piety involved a deeper understanding of the mathematical principles underlying nature. But Socrates challenged these notions by asking, what is it that makes an action pious? He sought to define piety in a way that goes beyond mere obedience and into the realm of logical reasoning. This approach fundamentally reshaped how ancient Greeks understood morality. By demanding a clear and consistent definition, Socrates elevated moral discourse to a level of philosophical rigor that had not been seen before. According to ancient Greek mythology, the gods were believed to possess human-like qualities and emotions. They could be jealous, vengeful, and capricious, much like mortals. Xenophanes argued that this anthropomorphism was deeply flawed. He believed that the gods should be seen as perfect and eternal beings, not mere reflections of human frailties. In his famous poem To the Truth, Xenophanes writes, "But mortals believe that the gods are born and that they have clothes and speech and bodies similar to their own," challenging the conventional wisdom of his time. This critique had significant implications for the understanding of piety and morality in ancient Greece. If the gods were not like humans, then what did it mean to be pious? Xenophanes' critique pushed ancient Greek philosophers to reconsider the very foundations of their religious beliefs and moral practices. This profound shift deepens our understanding of how Socrates' dilemma critiques conventional religious beliefs. It forces us to question not just what is pious, but also the nature of those we consider divine. Ultimately, they invite us to consider whether our moral frameworks are grounded in something more enduring and universal than the whims of even the most perfect deities. This is a question that continues to resonate through the ages, challenging us to define our own moral compass in a changing world. This question not only interrogates the essence of religious devotion, but also probes the very foundations of moral education in ancient Greece. These intellectual exercises were not merely abstract musings, but served as cornerstones for educational institutions such as Plato's Academy. By integrating Socrates' teachings into their educational practices, the ancient Greeks sought to foster moral development through rigorous intellectual inquiry. Through this process, students were challenged to define virtue on their own terms, moving beyond mere adherence to traditional beliefs. In essence, the dilemma served as a pedagogical tool that encouraged students to develop their own moral compass rather than merely accepting prescribed norms. This intellectual tradition not only shaped the educational practices of Plato's Academy, but also resonated through subsequent generations, continuing to challenge and refine our understanding of moral principles. The dilemma's enduring impact on ancient Greek moral education underscores the profound influence of Socrates' teachings on the broader cultural understanding of virtue and piety in antiquity. In the heart of ancient Greece, the question of divine commands and their role in shaping morality was hotly debated among philosophers like Socrates. In early Greek religion, divine commands were considered the ultimate arbiter of righteousness. The gods, with their whims and decrees, set the moral compass for humanity. But Socrates' dilemma raised a crucial question: is something pious because the gods command it, or do the gods command it because it is inherently pious? This debate echoed through the halls of philosophy, as polytheism and monotheism clashed in their views of divine authority. In the polytheistic view, each god held a specific domain, leading to a complex web of moral directives. In contrast, monotheists posited a single, omnipotent deity whose commands were absolute and unquestionable. Socrates' questioning highlighted the fragility of moral systems built solely on divine fiat, prompting philosophers to seek a more stable foundation for piety and virtue. As a result, the cultural understanding of virtue and piety evolved, moving away from mere obedience to divine decrees toward a more internally coherent moral framework. Socrates questioned the motives of his interlocutor, Euthyphro, in a dialogue that challenged the very notion of piety. He asked whether something was pious because the gods approved of it, or if the gods approved of it because it was pious. This debate highlights the Greek concept of Arete excellence, or virtue, which encompassed not just personal morality but also civic responsibility. Eudaimonia, often translated as happiness or flourishing, was seen as the ultimate goal of a virtuous life. It was believed that a person who lived with Arete would achieve Eudaimonia. Socrates' questioning of Euthyphro's motives was not just an intellectual exercise, but a probe into how Athenians understood their duties as citizens. In ancient Greek society, the ideal citizen was one who upheld justice, wisdom, and courage, all of which were considered crucial for the well-being of the polis. Thus, Piety was not just about personal devotion, but also about fulfilling one's duties as a member of the community. In this sense, Socrates' dialogue serves as a mirror, reflecting back to the Athenians their own understanding of morality and civic responsibility. By challenging Euthyphro's simplistic view of piety, Socrates invites his audience to consider the deeper implications of their actions and beliefs. This dialogue thus reinforces the idea that piety in ancient Greece was deeply intertwined with one's role as a citizen. Ultimately, the understanding of morality in ancient Greece was not just about pleasing the gods, but also about living a life that benefits the community as a whole.